So by a show of hands, who will be writing the presentation this year? Raise your hand. If you're S3, you should be raising your hand. Okay. So I hope this session is going to be really helpful for you guys because this is some of the things that you're going to be finding really problematic when you're writing the E. Alright, so today I'll be talking about the process, content, and a short reflection about my EE in general. Okay, to start me off with process. So of course I have to do a topic selection. And of course for the first 6 days, you're going to have a face looking like this, contemplating over what am I going to do? What? And you finally get this idea that you're going to pick this subject for me. That was history. Now there's two main reasons why I actually selected history to write my EE. First of all, I'm interested in it. Second of all, it is one of the highest scoring subjects in EE. Yes, I'm tactical. By the way, the first is language and literature. FYI. Okay, moving on. So by the time on the day 8 to 11, you start wearing a Harvard hoodie and thinking about what you're going to be researching on. And this is where I start researching more about, what am I going to do? And day 12, you finally get your enlightenment. And this is where I start developing my EE research question. So, of course, the research question, before I actually created it, I had to do preliminary research. Now, this process is the preliminary research. Alright, so the first question that you guys will be asking yourself is, within the subject that I selected in my extended essay, what is a topic that I am particularly interested in? If you're not interested in the topic that you selected, you're going to screw yourself over because you're going to be writing something like this. So you want to select something that you're interested in. For me, that was ethnic conflicts and genocides. No, go back. Yes. The reason why I suggest you guys to select two topic of interest is because it is very narrow in focus. So when you go to Google and start doing your research, instead of typing ethnic conflicts or genocides, you're going to type genocides related to ethnic conflicts. So your search results is like, boom, very specific. For me, that was Rwandan genocides. Next, the question you ask yourself is, what part of the topic you've selected is unique? For the topic I selected, especially for Rwandan genocide, it was unique because the conflict was prolonged because of the lack of international community's interest in the Rwandan genocide. And hence, based on my research, I was able to create my research question. To what extent was the international community's failure to adequately address the 1994 Rwandan genocide responsible for prolonging the time of conflict? Yes, it is super long. It's supposed to sound like a paragraph. Yes, after I created my research question, I started making my outline. And as you guys can see from my research question, is predominantly talking about the international community, which I'll be showing you guys real soon. Also, let's see, the process after creating my first draft, revision, the main part of the process is the start. There's a Korean proverb saying the start is half of the entire process. 시작이 보는 것도 절반이다. Okay? Yeah. So moving on to my content. So my introduction, I introduce to my audience, or the readers, or the moderators, what the context is for the Rwandan conflict. The situation is that the Hutus and the Tutsis, which are two different ethnic groups, get into a huge fight. Now, why does that happen? That is because the Belgians come down and they decide to colonize the Rwandans and they instill racism between the Hutus and Tutsis. And that increases conflict. And Tutsis, the minorities, were put into political superiority. The Hutus were the majorities, were sitting in their farm going like, wait a minute, that's unfair. And they decided to do a strike, and the Tutsis were put out of power, and the Tutsis were super mad, and they were like, wait a minute, I used to be ruling that country. And they strike back Hutus, and there's the start of the Rwandan conflict. Yeah. So my first body paragraph to examine what actually prolonged the conflict in Rwanda So, in my first body paragraph, I talk about the United Nations Security Council, because the United Nations assistance to Rwanda is the biggest organization that was created to mediate the situation in Rwanda under the name of the United Nations Security Council. Oh, that's one factor that why I was focused on the United Nations Security Council. The other part is the resolutions that were created under the name of the United Nations Security Council. So the first part, UNAMIR, United Nations assistance to Rwanda, which is called UNAMIR. They had a problem. Their leadership was super corrupt. There's this leader called Jacques Boubou. His name is Jacques Boubou. And Jacques Boubou was very, very corrupt. How do we know this? Well, a general Dallaire. Dallaire was in the actual Rwandan conflict. He was part of the UN, and he gave a report saying, telling Boubou, yo, we need more troops here so we can mediate the conflict because there's going to be a battle. And guess what? Boubou says, no. So it was completely ignored. Now there's a reason behind why Boubou actually ignored what Dallaire said. He got bribed by the Hutu extremists. That is why the leadership was largely corrupted, because the leader of a mediating organization was already on one side of the conflict, so they were highly unwilling to participate in mediating the actual conflict. So next up is the resolution part of the United Nations Security Council. So the resolutions were also very problematic because the P5 nations within the United Nations Security Council, which is China, Britain, France, China, and Russia, these countries have the power to say the resolutions that are written in the UNSC is not going to pass just because they don't like it. And any part of the resolution that included military or financial support, it was striked out just because the countries, the P5 nations did not like it. Do you guys get the gist of why this is a problem? Now, the other part that got struck out of the resolution is that any part that labeled Rwanda, the Rwandan conflict as a genocide was struck out. So the international community was unwilling to accept the fact that the situation in Rwanda was actually very severe. Because if once they did acknowledge that the situation is severe, they have to take action, but they don't want to take action, so they're like, no. And they get all the parts that talk about let's get involved in Rwanda out of the resolution. So that's why the United Nations Security Council was kind of highly dysfunctional at this time. Next slide, please. So next is the United States of America. Now, what did America do to actually prolong the conflict of the Rwandan genocide? They did one thing. The USA acted like that they did not know about the Rwandan conflict. This is not an opinion, this is a fact. How do I know that? Through extensive research, I was able to find some declassified documents of daily reports sent by US officials in Rwanda back to US. Also, President Clinton acknowledged and admitted to the fact that, yes, we knew all along, we're sorry. So we kind of know what was happening in the US. Deliberate ignorance. Okay, next up we have France. Now France is very special. Unlike the US indirectly contributing to prolonging the conflict, we have France, who are super smart to decide, hey, why don't we sell guns to them? And they decide to sell tons of arms to the Hutu extremists. Now, let's think about this. If you pour oil onto a fire, does it get bigger or smaller? Quite naturally, it gets smaller. Now, France is pouring oil onto the fiery conflict in Rwanda. It's like, huge fire. So now, the conflict became more severe because there's more arms. Also, France, they sent military officials to Rwanda to train the Hutu extremists to fight in a certain way. They also set up specific tactics for the Hutu extremists. Therefore, they have some responsibility. Also, Rwanda. So that was all the international community's responsibility. Now I'm going to move on to actually domestic problems. So even before the Belgians came in and colonized and instilled racism, they had this social stratification system, similar to the feudal system or the caste system. They had a social stratification system called Ubuhake. So they already acknowledged the fact that the Tutsis, the minorities, were going to be the political superiors in Rwanda over the Hutus. Also, later on, during the conflict, none of the two sides actually tried to have a dialogue. None of the two sides actually wanted to mediate the situation and come to a compromise. So, Rwanda, domestically, they did really badly politically to mediate the situation themselves. So what is my conclusion? Imagine there's a Rwandan flag there. France, UN, USA, Rwanda. Here's my conclusion. I believe that UNSC is the most responsible for, who had the greatest impact in prolonging the conflicts of Rwanda. The reason why I say that is because France, of course, they directly contributed to selling the arms in Rwanda. However, even before they started selling the arms trade, the UN sent UNAMIR, a highly dysfunctional organization, to solve the Rwandan crisis. And that was a huge... and the USA, it's really hard to blame USA because the only reason we can kind of say that USA was responsible is because they ignored the fact that there was a Rwandan genocide. The thing is, they're not obligated to actually help out another country. It's not part of their economic or political agendas. So there's no incentive to actually help out a foreign country. That's my conclusion. Next slide, please. Okay, so reflection on content. So funny enough, after the entire conflict, the people decide to select the president of the Rwanda to be Paul Kagame, which is the former leader of the Hutu extremists. Does that? Did you guys process that? Okay. Here's the problem. They don't understand the severity of the conflict. They decide and they selected a leader that spearheaded mass killings to become the leader of a country once again. They did not learn anything. That's, for me, with the reflection on the content in itself, I thought it was kind of pitiful. Next slide, please. So, now I'm going to be reflecting on the entire process. Okay, when you guys do the research, please do it in a very clever manner, because I did not do it in a clever manner. Why do I say that? I was super enthusiastic. I was like, yes, I'm going to research every single document I can find out there about Rwandan genocide. I looked through 50 official documents, and it turned out nearly 20 of them is useless. Of course, it helped me understand the background, but it was not essential for me to build my arguments. So when you guys do your research, do it smartly. So if I were to rewrite my EE, I would do my research process in a more smart manner. My second reflection point, I would definitely create a better outline before I actually start my first draft. And I hope you guys do. I hope you guys do create a good outline before you write the EE. For me, I was like, outline, let's see, intro, this, body, this, 2, 3, 4, conclusion. Okay, I think I'm good. Wait, I don't have my information. That's gonna happen. That's why when you write your outline, I suggest you guys to have the sources listed out and the different points specifically and evidences for that points to be listed out in your outline before you even start with your first draft. Well, other from that, my time was not that big of a problem because I was that one student that got to leave the room when Mr. Wyman said, if you're done with the EE, you get to leave the room, and I'm going to shout to the rest of the group. And I was flicking my hair and walking out the room. Procrastination was not that big of a problem, but I still suggest you guys to not procrastinate because that is going to be a pain in the butt. Thank you guys for listening to my EE presentation. I hope you guys...